What's up, guys? We're here at AMC Town Square with Chasing Cinema.
James Shu, how are you?
.com. And tonight we're here for Keira Knightley, Benedict Cumberbatch, Oscar worthy. We're gonna find out The Imitation Game.
Yes. This film is exactly what the Oscars are going to be looking for. Now, if you aren't someone that follows Oscar buzz or award buzz in general, Benedict Cumberbatch has been all over it for Best Actor. People have been talking about this performance for quite a while. Now, if I'm going to break down some history. This is based on a true story, so I'm going to try to tell you guys what it's about. It follows a man named Alan Turing, who is a mathematician, cryptologist, pretty much just a genius who is chosen to crack Enigma. Do you know what Enigma is?
Tell me.
Enigma.
That's the Riddler.
Yeah, well, listen to this. This is maybe where he got some of his names. You can think about it. Enigma was a crypt, I don't know the exact word for it. It's basically a machine that was created and used by Germany and Nazis that would send messages, you know, cryptically. It was all hidden messages that would use back and forth for bombings and killing, things like that. So it came to the point in the UK, mind you, that this man was chosen to crack the code and be able to, you know, decode these messages and eventually win the war. Cracking Enigma is essentially what won us the war. You know, the Allies in World War II. So a very important piece of information. However, the film talks more about Alan Turing as a man, which we'll talk about more after we see the film, because I'm sure it's going to be in there thematically, and I'm going to want to talk about it. But very big piece of history. Not many people know what Enigma was. Not many people know how big of a role it played. Not many people know that, you know, the UK produced this man that was able to do it. And what happened to that man is what's more important.
All right, tonight's movie. How long?
About 2 hours.
And we'll see how the movie is.
Let's do it.
Hope for a good one. Alright guys, so we just got out of Cumberbatch,
The Imitation Game.
Miss Knightley, The Imitation Game, ChasingCinema.com.
Okay, so as we talked about in our other review of Unbroken and Big Eyes, I believe, we talked about the formula, the Oscar formula based on a true story, two great actors that are overcoming a problem, and though there is no action and necessarily battle scenes, this is a war film at heart because it takes place around and really about the war. You know, in the very opening lines it says, "Pay attention," and you know, you think you're about to indulge in this spy war thriller. And it's the exact opposite. Though I consider it a thriller, and it's a very slow-paced thriller, the one that makes you really think, one that you could actually just kind of hear your heartbeat throughout the whole film as you're watching things unfold. However, pay attention, I think, is said to the audience, not because they want us to pay attention to plot, because there's no real twist, there's no real turn or anything that you would assume. There is kind of a twist, but to pay attention to the theme of the film. I'll get back to that now. Benedict Cumberbatch gives one of the best performances of the year. He absolutely engulfed Alan Turing and is wonderful at playing this black sheep, a self-chosen, somewhat black sheep that kind of separates itself from society, and watch him just kind of interact with these people because Alan Turing is joined by a group of people, which includes Keira Knightley, which at that time women should only be clerks. You know, women shouldn't be, you know, doing scientific stuff, which to Keira Knightley's not defense, but to her praise, she did a very job at a woman playing overcoming that. I believe she was nominated for a supporting actress. I'm not sure if this is going to be her year. I'm not sure it's going to be that great a performance, but I thought it was a solid one. Back to Cumberbatch, he played an incredible man who you could just kind of see that he was shamed, humiliated, and afraid of the world, all by just looks of his eyes. Back to Pay Attention. The Pay Attention is actually about the theme of the film, which is actually about homosexuality. Alan Turing was a homosexual who was actually eventually charged with indecent exposure and chemically castrated. The man eventually killed himself. And the movie really talks about homosexuality and the theme about how in the UK it was actually illegal to be with men and all these things, and it kind of really comes out. The Imitation Game, you know, a lot of people, The Imitation Game is the name of his thesis, which would eventually be his creation that he names Christopher, which will eventually kind of become the basis of what we know as a computer. So that's how, you know, intelligent this man is. However, I also think The Imitation Game kind of goes back to the fact that this man is trying to imitate the straight world around him, the world that is supposed to be norm, and his really valiant effort to imitate that with Keira Knightley. As you know, they begin a relationship, as no one kind of really knows this backstory of Alan Turing. But you know, the film kind of closes with these texts and tells you what happens to Alan Turing, because that's not where the film ends. It doesn't go really that deep into what happens to him, but the film really does talk about homosexuality and how they were kind of just really, really how they were treated and what happened to them in the UK, which is really shameful. You know, and it really, really has a lot to say, and I love films that say things. I love films that have a message, especially because this film happened in World War II. What it's saying is just as equally as important as what's going on right now. And to me, that is very, very something that's very, very important, and it's an important film. When I started writing reviews, I had a really great critic tell me, when you're watching a movie, say, what's it saying about that time, and what's it saying about our time now? And this film does both beautifully.
You know what's interesting about that is, so World War II was during the 5th. When
you get the end of the, you get the 30s.
What year is that? About the 30s?
Mm-hmm. 30s.
So that was the 30s, 1930s. We're in 2014, and there's still problems with homosexuality.
Yes.
Right. So.
Especially from what I hear, I have a good friend who's lived in the UK for a long time. He says it's more accepted, but it's nowhere near as accepted as it is in this country, and there is a very big clash still with it. Though again, and he lives in a certain part of the UK. I don't know if that's just his experience. I'm just relying on what I heard, but I hear that is still a problem because I believe, and even in the film, chemical castration was still a thing up until I want to say the late 80s. So I mean, or even it might be before that, but it's still very current if you think about it.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Is like, I know you're trying to say America's better, and
I'm not saying
I live in America, but we still haven't even changed really.
Yeah, no,
we really haven't. Like. So it's almost been 100 years, and we still have
Well, I'm just saying the extent of punishment. They might not get the same respect, yes. But I mean, there's no chemical castration anymore. Yes. But in UK, that was a real thing, and that eventually led to this man's suicide. And I don't think this is a plot spoiler because it doesn't happen in the film, but I think it is something important that people need to kind of look at.
Do they acknowledge it at the end credits?
Yes, the end of the film.
They say he did that.
Yes, okay. And it's all in text, and that's what I have to talk about criticism-wise. Is that as important as this theme is, and as much as they want to talk about, it should have gotten more just than a text slide at the very end of the film. I think that they address his homosexuality, but only partially, and you kind of learn about his character a lot. But at the end, it tells you this happened in the UK, this and this happened to him, and I felt that it was their responsibility to show us that and make it a little bit more powerful. But though I think it could have been better, it still hit me home. And the fact that what this man did for not only his country, but any of the allies who fought in World War II, and what unfortunately happened to him.
Yeah, and so it's like history always repeats itself. Almost 100 years later, we as a society as a whole still haven't grown from people who are gay or lesbian. We still have problems with that. And then it's interesting because you're talking about at the end of World War II, they ignited the whole point of the film, and I was reading that the whole Sony thing that's going on right now is that people are like, will we ever go into World War III? And a lot of people are saying, or not a lot of people, I should say, the articles I was reading was saying that the future wars that we have aren't going to be like what people think when we think of war, we think World War II.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are like, we're in a war right now. Yeah. This is a war. It's just we do it online now.
Yeah.
We go inside.
It's a completely different world.
Yeah. Instead of going to someone's country and stealing something, that's what they did to Sony. They hacked in and stole.
And in all reality, though, sorry to interrupt you, but though Enigma was a machine that, if you look at, looks like an old cash register, those techniques, those methods are still used in computers. There are still messages going on. They're all used in the computers and in the cyber world.
So you would hope that we could watch films like this and learn from them. I don't know, maybe learn something.
This is a film that I think I find it important, not because it's necessarily well acted or because it's well directed or well written, though I do think all of
those too.
Yeah. But this film says something, and especially when a film says something about what's going on today, it really makes us look in the mirror. A film I really, really want people to concentrate on. It's coming out in January. It's called Selma. The only reason the march is from Selma to Montgomery. The only reason why I'm mentioning it is because I'm afraid the film's not doing very well with its not financially, but just how it's being advertised. And I really want people to see this film because it's also a film directed by a black woman who I hope gets a nomination that says something really, really right now at a critical moment of what's going on in this country with with African Americans and blacks against white police officers and police and just the government in general and whites in general. And I think it's a very this in the Imitation Game and Selma. Though I can't really talk much about Selma, though I probably said enough already. really, really have to say something about what's going on in our society, and that's what makes film really, really important. There are films like Into the Woods and Annie that are fun to watch, but it's movies like these that are meant to be watched and absorbed and learned from.
Yep, love it. Gosh, and really a slap in the face because it shows us that we as a society, we're really not growing. Like maybe we're making more money, maybe we're getting better technology, but we're still repeating our same habits.
I think we're growing, but unfortunately we're just growing at a really slow pace, and we tend to make very similar mistakes at the same time.
Beyond slow.
Yes. ChasingCinema.com/TheImitation Game.
Get the full-on review. Facebook and Twitter, like and follow the man.
Thank you.
And that could be it for the year 2014.
I want to say happy holidays, everyone. I want to say thank you to Mr. Kent Wong and James Hugh for an amazing year.
Kent Wong.
And being so very helpful in what I do and really making Chasing Cinema come full circle on the internet.
It's sad we're in Las Vegas, anyways. We're not getting American Sniper.
Not yet.
I was really excited about that.
Early
I was really
January.
excited about American Sniper.
American Sniper, Selma, and another film that is supposedly going to be award contention, A Most Violent Year. So we're still going to be talking about films that are coming out later in this year, from this year, but you'll be seeing it here first because that's what we do.
Do you know if we're getting, in Las Vegas, are we getting Gambler with Mark Wahlberg?
Gambler comes out on Christmas as well.
It's for nationwide. Okay, so.
Well, at least Vegas. I don't want to say nationwide to be wrong, but I'm 90% sure if it's coming to Vegas, it's coming nationwide.
Great. Okay, so yeah, it's been an awesome year, dude. And
Thank you, sir.
And then me and Chasing though, we're not done. We are going to do. Yeah, we're never done.
We'll never be done.
We're going to do a recap of our favorite films of 2014, but this guy can't do it until after he sees all of them.
Well, we have to see American Sniper. You have to see Selma and Most Violent Year. So as soon as those films come out, and as soon as we've seen actually everything, then we can do it.
All right. So I'm excited, guys. Happy holidays.
Be
Merry
safe.
Christmas, Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah. I feel rude if I forgot something.
Happy New Year's.
Yes, and have a wonderful Happy New Year. It's been awesome.
Yep, and so here's to 2015. Let's bring on a whole other year of movies.
We're excited. We're going to continue to keep chasing.
And continue chasing cinema.